Welcome, everybody, once again to Irish Sports Daily Power Hour. I am your host, Mike Frank, here with Jamie Uyeyama. We also have Greg Flamong producing the show, and we'll come on throughout the show and just kind of offer some thoughts if he has some. We always like having Greg's comments throughout the show. Before we get going, I wanted to mention once again, it's a great time to sign up for Irish Sports Daily. You can go to the front page, click on the premium section, and sign up today. Also, if you're not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, please search for us on youtube.com and search for Irish Sports Daily. You can subscribe to the channel and like the videos. That'll allow you to know when we have more content coming up, when the live shows are happening, all that kind of stuff. And great thing to check out. I know a lot of people actually watch Power Hour on the YouTube channel. And so we greatly appreciate your participation there as well. We got certainly a lot to talk about today. Before we get going, need to mention our first sponsor, which is ESQ Clothing, founded by ND alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ Master Tailors combine the next level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms in downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Greg, I think you said there's even a special going on for Labor Day, correct?
Yeah, God's doing a special for Labor Day on 20% off all online ready-to-wear items, including ESQ's award-winning bamboo dress shirts and their new luxury dress tee. They got a new T-shirt that's very, very nice. Very, if you want to be a little bit more casual, but you still want to, put on the best threads, you can do that at ESQ Clothing. Use code KICKOFF to get 20% off all online items through September 6th. Through next weekend, you can get 20% off all online items with the code KICKOFF. So take advantage of that.
All right, sounds good. Yama, I just I think we went into this game and we were pretty confident that Notre Dame would show up and play well, and that to me is the biggest surprise after the rewatch. We were just kind of talking off air, and man. I think that the biggest disappointment to all of us was that the captains just did not play well in this game. And if they're your captains and they're not playing well, that's a big disappointment. We'll get kind of position by position here in a minute, but to me, I think that says the most about this game is these guys just were not ready to play. And if your captains aren't dialed in, how are they supposed to lead the rest of the team as far as what's supposed to be the standard? And I don't want to say everyone played awful, but I think it was a below performance for all of them, compared to what we've seen in the past. I just don't think that they played well. And, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm having very strong conversation with that group saying, hey, these people elected you to lead. And not only did you not lead, but you didn't step up and play great yourself. And how are they supposed to follow you if you're not dialed in and you're not 100% locked into what we're doing here? So I don't know, Jamie, that's a concern. And that would be the first thing, if I'm Marcus Freeman, that I go try and fix. Your thoughts here?
I think it's a little bit like Riley Leonard after NIU last year, right? Where he was obviously not good in that game. And he probably had like a crisis of confidence, like he wrote about it, that, on his Players Tribune piece that he wrote that he did. And, Marcus Freeman had to talk to him about it. So, I mean, he's got to read into however he needs to get it across to Notre Dame's guys. But I think like the thing with what was so disappointing, if you look at like, Emil Wagner, he played way better in the college football playoff than he played against Miami in this game. He got worked in this game. I mean, obviously we'll go through everybody up front, but he was not close to the standard that he was, right? Like Donovan Heinrich was not even close to the standard that he was. Drake Bowen missed 5 tackles all of the entire 2024. He missed 3 in this game. Like he was in a position to make plays and he didn't make plays. So I think that's a huge thing because, Greg and I too were chatting offline yesterday about it. And if you look at like most of Notre Dame's top players, if you just gave them like a straight plus minus of the guys that you think were supposed to be the best players in the team, way too many minuses, way too many minuses in that game. And I mean, obviously there was a lot of bright spots, and there were guys who played well in this game, and that's what allowed them to, only lose by 3. But there's too many guys who need to pick it up, and that's just one of the things that I think really needs to happen.
It's kind of across the board when you looked at it. You know what I mean? It was kind of across the board, especially offensively. I mean, I don't want to hammer on the running backs because I don't think that they really had much to do in this game. But let's start with what I thought was the one real bright spot, and that was CJ Carr. And he was not flawless, but Yama for a first game, man, I don't know if you can ask for anything better than that. We've talked about was he throwing the ball too much on RPO? Probably, right? And I'm sure that Mike Denbrock will have that conversation with him, and probably already has. But at the same time, that's on Mike Denbrock. Look, if he's doing that, you have the microphone in the ear. You know what I mean? You have the microphone to say, hey, give the ball to your running backs. They're here to help you. So I have a feeling we'll see a lot of that addressed moving forward. But when I watched CJ Carr, I got really excited about him, and I have not been excited about a Notre Dame quarterback for quite some time. And it's not that I don't think that they're good players. They were good players, but I just see this guy to handle the environment that he did. And it's interesting when you talk to Miami fans after, they said that was the loudest that crowd's ever been, right? And here's this guy goes in there. It's not even phased in the slightest. The crowd noise did not bother him at all. And it was like they came to give him everything they had. He was hit a lot. He took some shots. Some he probably should have slid for a little bit. I'm sure they're going to have that conversation with him too. But tough kid, confident as can be. And I came out of that. That's the one thing that I'm probably the most excited about this game is I feel Notre Dame's got a real chance to have a really special quarterback. And so I wanted to start off with something that was pretty positive. And you know me, I'm always pretty skeptical on these things until it's like I want to see more and more. But you can't teach what he showed. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm fired up about all these amazing throws that he made. I just thought it was such a difficult environment that a lot of first-time quarterbacks completely melt down in those situations, especially when it was put on his shoulders. We talked about Yama. The last thing that the Notre Dame offense wants to do is to put it on his shoulders, and that's exactly what they ended up doing. And it didn't matter. The kid still just played really, really well, and that's what people should be excited about at this game. There's a lot of negative. We'll get to it. We're not going to gloss over it because that's not what we do here. But I think that that's one of the most positive things, and that's the hardest position to fix, I think. If you don't have that guy, you just don't have that guy. You can't fix it. And so I'm very excited about that part of it. Your thoughts on CJ Carr?
I think that is absolutely why Notre Dame fans should come out of this game like feeling much better than you would if he was bad and they lost the game because of that. Like if I'm say an Alabama fan or an Ohio State fan, and you think about how like Ty Simpson played or Arch Manning played on those games of the road, and obviously you're playing against pretty good teams there. It's tough. It was the same kind of situation for Carr, and he had the weather to go along with it too, because I think that played a really big impact. Because you notice there's a lot of throws there where they weren't like the tightest throws, and that is not normal for Carr, who probably throws as nice a ball
spiral
as anybody. Yeah, like, and I just thought I was so impressed with how he gutted it out, and his toughness. His confidence, his ability to escape pressure. Yeah, he made a couple critical mistakes, But those are the kind of mistakes that are going to happen for a young quarterback in any game, right? So you want him to like limit those as they go on, and maybe not be as critical, but the good far outweigh the bad. And I think that is something to be like really, really excited about. There's so much room for growth too. Like there's so many other things that I think he's going to get better at. So
Yeah.
That is probably the most exciting thing, is that he played really well considering the circumstances. And, he didn't have the benefit of it being his home game. Like I know people were raving about the freshman kid from Cal, and that kid is good. He is going to be really good. But I mean, they're not playing somebody tough in the first game, right?
Yeah.
He's not going on the road and doing that. Like, it's different. Like there's going to be ups and downs with things. To go out there and play in that environment and show that, it means that he's got a real shot to be pretty special, and that's exciting.
Yama, before the season, I kind of tried to tell people that I'd heard that the O-line was just not playing that well, and we saw evidence of that in Joe not Joe Moore, Joe Rudolph, and how he was handling practice and things like that. You could tell he was not necessarily happy with it, and I'd heard that things just didn't get a whole lot better leading all the way up into the last scrimmage that they had. I heard that they were not happy with that situation either, and I remember pointing out to you, I thought it was interesting they had two captains at offensive line. And to me, that's kind of like, well, I wonder if they don't have any captains. A lot of times you don't see that. And so I just, I mean, and you look at it, like we talked about Anthony Knapp, and clearly he did not have a good game. And I mean, really almost from the start, he just struggled, and which is kind of surprising. And people will say, well, he was worn down. He was cramping. They were worried about him overheating, but it wasn't, it wasn't at the very end where he started to struggle. He struggled, a lot during the game. So people are saying, well, look, let's move this guy here. Let's move that guy there. That's why, I mean, look, I think that they know what they have, right? And this is why I keep always harping on, you got to get athletic tackles. You got to get guys who can move, because these guys can beat Boston College. They can beat North Carolina State. They can beat Syracuse. They can do all those things. But when you go against first round top 5 picks, you need some top 5 picks as well. And I think that athletically, is a guy like Emil Wagner, can he do it physically? Yeah, I think so. But sometimes I think he gets overpowered. He's not the biggest guy. And I don't think Anthony Knapp is an ideal left tackle. I've said that for a long time. I think his best position would be center. But you can't just put somebody there just because you think that they have the body type that would fit. A lot of people saying put Gerby out there. Well, they have Gerby at right tackle for a reason, right? If they felt like he was athletic enough to play left tackle, he'd be over there. But he's not there, and they have Styles Prescott there. Now, can he play that? Maybe down the line. I don't know, but we knew that Gerby Lambert, because of the level of competition he had coming in, would have a jump, just like we think Will Black's going to have a jump, and there's going to be a learning curve there. But you got to have some athleticism there. And I think that's where I think we saw that a little bit in the game, but also they just got flat bullied. I think they got pushed around, and I'm just not used to seeing that. Your thoughts here, O-line. And I do want to point out, we talked about Ashton Craig on the post-game show. I thought he played pretty well, especially since he hadn't played.
Very well, I
thought he played, but he was the only one that I felt played really well. So your thoughts here?
Yeah, and I thought Shrouth was okay. I didn't think he was bad, but I didn't think he was good. Like, he wasn't dominant or anything like that. And then I think that right guard position was up and down, which I knew that was going to be the case, right? But the thing is like that, you're going to have a up and down situation at right guard. You get that. The tackles got dominated. They did. It was run game, pass game. I do want to give credit to Miami's guys. I thought Bain and Messidor were as good as any defensive ends that
Yes.
I've seen go against Notre Dame. Bain, I think, obviously last year he was hurt for a good chunk of it. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Like, he was so much better than any defensive end that Notre Dame saw last year as a pure defensive end, like run and whatever, because Abdul Carr is a different kind of pass rusher, but just total game complete. Bain is the best guy that I've seen them, like, probably in the last like 3 or 4 years. Like, you can't even compare him to like JT Tuamalu. Like, he was a step above there. So, and Messidor was just as good as him in the game. So I want to give those guys credit because they, played really, really well. But you can't get whooped like that. You got to win your share of battles too. And they just didn't.
Yeah.
And I thought, Knapp, obviously, that was a game where, the first real pressure that he gave to Bain, I don't even know if I'm going to put it 100% on him, because they lined up basically with a 5 tech on top of him, and then Bain was outside, and there was some kind of like maybe miscommunication where he wasn't, I don't know. He thought about the threat inside first, but then also that comes down to like the protection call, because how do you not prioritize Ruben Bain in that situation? Yes. Like, that is a mistake. So honestly, it's going to be a process to see, where those guys are, but it's got to get way better. The one thing about Emil Wagner is that I saw him play at a much higher level, specifically as a run blocker. He was not good as a run blocker. He could not stick on a friggin' block the whole game. And I'm confident he will bounce back and be better. And Knapp, I know, will be good as a run blocker, but I don't think Texas A&M doesn't have the same dudes that they had last year. They don't have the same dudes as Miami.
Yeah,
Notre Dame isn't probably going to see any edge guys as good as those two all year, and especially like on the road in that environment. So there's that part of it too. But it just can't be like that. It can't be like that. And honestly, it is true. Like, Prescott, he played at the end of the game. Like, he was better when he was in there. He didn't have to do as much, and let's see him play a full game and all that. But he was better than Knapp when he was in there. So, I think that there's got to be like some soul searching there on the offensive line. I do think like they're going to be better at right guard the next game. Like, Lambert, that's his first game of college football. Like, he's going to be better. Absher's going to be better. I saw good stuff from both of those guys during the game. So I'm not as worried about there. The tackles, like, it's got to be, if Emil Wagner's not going out there and killing people the next game, then I think I'd be worried, because he needs to be like pretty motivated. That film had to have been just ugly when they were getting together and watching it.
Here's my concern, Jamie, and I've been around these guys. There is no Pat Coogan with this group. I just don't think that there's a guy who's just going to stand up and just be that guy. And that was my big concern heading into this. I just don't see a guy. And you got to recruit to that type of player, right? You got to find enough of those types of players where they just have that edge to them that lifts everybody else. And that's my one concern about this offensive line, is I'm just not sure they have. Now, I do think Billy probably has it more than Emil does, but where was it on Sunday night? I didn't see it. And somebody needs to go in there. And this is what I've said for a long time, is you can't be a talker on the field if you're getting your butt kicked. Everybody knows you're getting your butt kicked. You can't be out there berating other people for a poor performance when you're playing terrible. So, that's why this has to be fixed with the captains immediately. And if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm in there and I'm having a very hard very honest conversation with them saying, you let the team down, because they did. They just did. They did not play well. And you can't expect anybody else, and you can't lead anybody else if you're playing terrible. So that, that needs to be said. And I'm sure that that's been said. The rest of the offense, I saw some good in wide receiver. I still don't like the blocking. I think that could be better. I think it would certainly cause some problems, especially if you're trying to run screens and your front blocker is just getting blown up every single time. I mean, you can't have that. Now, that's first game. Those kind of things happen in the first game. But, look, these guys have played for a while, right? Jaden Greathouse has played for a while. He knows what's expected of him. You shouldn't have these kind of issues. And it's not just Jaden Greathouse. It's other guys that are out there doing the same thing. I think they probably got frustrated in that they weren't getting the ball or things weren't working, but you got to have a better performance there. I think tight end, Eli Raridan did some good things, did some bad things, too many drops. I think he played way too many minutes. It's clear they don't have anybody else. They didn't play anybody else. So, I mean,
can't play that
that's
many
a
snaps,
problem.
I agree.
Yeah, just, especially in that kind of environment. And so I don't want to, completely crap on Eli because, he had a big task asked of him, but, there were some drops early before he got tired, before the things happened. So, but, I don't think you can judge the running backs by anything other than they got to fix this. They have to figure out a way to get these running backs the football. And, I understand what Mike Denbrock was trying to do in that, you're trying to protect your quarterback, give him some easy throws, build up some confidence. I get that. But when your two best players don't touch the football near enough, that's on the offensive coordinator. Now, whether you call RPOs and the quarterback doesn't read it right, really doesn't matter. It's on you.
You got to call
you got to start running.
You got to call plays where that's the only option.
Exactly.
Or you check to something else, and it's like, hey, if he's got to check out of a run or check into another run, that's
because you don't like the look. Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't like the look, you check into a different run.
Yeah.
It's not
you run the opposite. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
I think has the biggest thing, and also too, I think that Eli Raridan playing that, as Greg pointed out with the thing, 58 of 60 snaps for Raridan. You're just not going to get a guy who's going to be able to block at a super high level. Not that he was, I mean, it's just incredibly hard to be like, hey, go out and block these defensive ends that the tackles can't block in the game. I think that's an impossible situation for him, but he's not going to be able to block at a super high level if he's playing that many plays. That's too many plays.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg. What do you?
Well, you guys were talking about the RPOs. The first play of the game was an RPO pass that he threw to a rolled up corner, like it was on the pick. Like, so the first play, you didn't read it right. Yeah. So at that point, it's like, okay, we got to take it out of his hands a little bit. And it's funny because I don't know that they trusted other quarterbacks who were more experienced with that stuff. It's so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that Denbrock needs to take some blame for that because you got to protect your quarterback and do the right things, but also do the right things for your offense. And if he's not doing things properly, then you have to adjust and do the things that you need to do. So I think when you look at there's been a lot of back and forth about people talking about offense play calling, defense play calling, all that type of stuff. And I will say I was not impressed by either of the coordinators in that regard, but it sure would help if the players played better. And I think that this is an equal type of situation. I think a lot of fans wanted to blame, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and I think that they should take a good share of the blame in this loss. But you cannot absolve the players, and especially after the rewatch. There was a lot of mistakes that they made, and they were just mental or physical things that they just didn't do right. I will say one positive is there wasn't the normal, false start, crazy holds, holding by the wide receivers. We didn't see a lot of that. And so that is one positive. You usually see that in the game, but that is one positive. Anyway, thoughts from you, Jamie?
Um, I think that Denbrock, there's definitely things to get on him about how he called the game. But I think that, you know, part of the game flow, if you think about like after they scored that first touchdown, and that was really the only drive where they were like, we're leaning on the run here. And that was obviously the Price's drive. And they ran the ball like, probably like 5 out of 6 plays and out of 5 out of 6 plays or something out of like consecutive plays. And they were moving them in the run game on those plays. It wasn't on the very first start of that drive. And so I think there's part of that. I think when you're talking about some of these guys getting worked up front, when you're not blocking, it's a body blow thing. And if you're not running that and running that many consecutive running plays in a row, or you're just throwing and dropping back, or you're running these RPOs all the time, like you're not taking it out. You're not getting the body blows on them. So I think that made it easier for them. And they had that drive, and then they had the defense gave up 2 touchdowns. And then it was 21-7. And you could easily get on Denbrock for that first drive of the second half. That was inexcusable to come out and throw 3 passes right away. Like that was inexcusable.
I agree.
Outside of that, though, in the second half, you can't really blame him for how he called the game, because based on where the game was at and the timing of the game, I think they just needed to come out and run the ball more from the start and focus on that rather than focus on getting Carr comfortable, because I don't think you can't go in then all of a sudden just be like, okay, well now we got to, come in and we got to try to get the knockout blow with the O-line if you're not getting body blows the whole game. And you didn't run the ball enough to do that. So that is where I will give the offensive line a little bit of a break. And there's like 3 or 4 guys in here who like want to fire Joe Rudolph. Like, no, he's a good coach. He did a great job with this group last year. He did a good job with the group year before. Last year was like an incredible job. And
yeah,
I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. They're going to get better. But I think it's got to go hand in hand with Denbrock. But then there were some things that were kind of like, at some point in the game, he had one hand tied behind his back of what he could do, and that would say, I think one of the weirdest things though, and tell me if this did stand out to you on the rewatch, Mike, that during that time when they like, okay, we have to throw the ball here. And it was like, they're down 21-7, they're down 21-14, 24-14, whatever. They protected well during that time. Like there was a lot of time for Carr during that time. So that was, I don't blame any of like the last plays where they're, it's, second and forever. They gave up a sack and then whatever. Those plays are going to happen. I'm not going to kill those guys for those situations. You're just asking, these guys are just like basically in sprinter stances ready to go. I don't think that's like totally on the offensive line, but that was the weird part, was like, they were playing well during that portion of it in protection. And then you just kind of wondered where that was for a lot of the rest of the game.
Yeah. I agree. I think that they did a lot of some things that were positive, and again, Carr, they gave Carr the opportunity to play well. And so that was exciting to see. I've seen a lot of kind of back and forth in the chat here about the offensive line and Joe Rudolph and that type of thing. And I get where people are coming from, but I think people are reading it the wrong way. I think people are saying Joe Rudolph is not a great coach, because they perform well against, or don't perform well against very great teams. I think they have it all wrong. I just don't think that these guys have the talent, the physical talent to do this. I just don't think that Knapp is. I think he will hold up as a left tackle very well against a lot of great teams. But when you go up against the very best ones, I just don't think they're good enough. And I think what you'll find is, when they're drafted, they're not going to be first round draft picks. I just don't think Emil Wagner's going to be a first round draft pick. I just don't. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good college player. But can he be a first round draft pick? I would be surprised. And, based off of what he put on tape on Sunday, that's going to certainly be a negative in that regard. And I think that Anthony Knapp is playing out of position. I just don't think that that's his best position. I've said that for a while. So all these people who want to know whether Rudolph's a good coach, I think he is a good coach for the reasons that you talked about. 5 players who had 6 total starts, and somehow you go play for a national championship game. That doesn't happen because some guy is, an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing as an offensive line coach. He got those guys ready to play and do the right things. But what he also had was he had a couple guys in there who were good leaders, and now they're gone. And that is a tough part about it. And so I don't think that they have the right mentality up there and leadership at this point. That will probably change, I'm hoping. But I think that was a big factor in why they played the way they did. And I also just don't think that they have the ultimate talent in what they're looking for at left and right tackle now. I think Wagner can be good, and I think Wagner has played better against better talent, or against this kind of talent, than he did. I think he has played better, and I think he will play better. But at the end of the day, I just think that people overrate how talented this group really is. And that's my personal opinion. I think Billy Strouth is a nice player, good player. Is he going to be a top, 2-round pick? I don't know. Didn't play like it on Sunday. So
they don't have an Alter or Fisher, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly. And so I think that people have this attitude like, this guy's a bad coach because I just don't think they're that talented. That's been an issue for me for a while. So, all right, Jamie, let's flip it to the defensive side. And first of all, I think we have to point out when Al Golden got here, things weren't, sunshine and roses right out of the gate. It just wasn't. And while they didn't play great or terrible, they didn't play great. And it took a while for that to happen. I think that's important to point out because it takes a while for a defensive coordinator to put his stamp on things, right? And for everybody to kind of be on the same page of what they're doing. But Jamie, again, I think it goes back to the captains again. If your captains are playing poorly, and Drake Bowen, he seems like he would be a good leader. You know what I mean? He will speak up. He will do the things that he needs to do. To me, my biggest concern is you took a defense that was aggressive. They were attacking. They were, they were everything we loved about watching defense, and you just unplugged it. You just completely unplugged it and said, okay, I get you want to rush for 4 with 4. Well, if you have Miami's defensive ends, you do that because you can get home. But when this group,
they weren't even going to get home with how quick they were getting the ball out.
That's certainly. Yeah. I mean, they were getting the ball out for sure. But you have to do something to disrupt that. You have to do something to disrupt that. And I did not. That is my biggest concern. And there was just no adjustment to it. We knew they were going to get the ball out, and they just didn't do anything. I don't like the way this defense is being called. I just don't like it. And will something change? If I'm Marcus Freeman, I go in there and I say, look, this was not acceptable. You don't want to disarm your defensive coordinator after his first game. I totally understand that. But you can have hard private conversations with him and say, look, this is not how we play defense, right? This is not the Notre Dame defense. This isn't how we play. And there's just, everybody seemed confused. Like they just weren't in the right position. I realize you want to play zone, and I'm all for playing zone, but when you're losing the game, you have to change something. You have to do something. And I don't know. I just was not a fan of the way the defense is called. And I'm going to tell you this: if they keep playing it this way, this could be a long season, because I just don't think that these guys are geared to play this way, and I don't think they want to play this way. Your thoughts?
I think there's no way they're going to keep playing this way all season, because Chris Ash wants to keep his job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think he wants to keep the job. I think he probably wants to wants to be a head coach or be an NFL DC or something. Like, I don't think he wants it to be a one and done job, and I don't think they can do this. Like, there are things that were good in the game, and I don't want to brush over that. Like, you gave up 4.7 yards per play. The lowest they had last year is 5.9, right? Like, that was the lowest they had all year. This is the second lowest that Shannon Dawson had at Miami. So you're like, okay, that's good. 0 explosives in the ground game. They only converted 35.7% on third down, 6.6 YPA. That's pretty good. Like, those are good. Twice they were in the red zone. They had 4 red zone twice that basically where they were handed the ball because of turnovers. The offense turned the ball over. And you get stops, right? You get stops. Those are good things. Like, those are good things. I thought there was a lot of resilience from the defense in a lot of ways when the game could have cratered. But in a lot of ways, that play, which it was not a good throw by Beck and a great play by CJ Daniels to make the incredible catch, right? But that play was the microcosm of the game, because it was not only did that swing the game, Daniels went up and made a play. Schuler waited for the play to come to him. And that was the difference in the game. And that's also how Ash called the game. He waited for the game and that was a mistake. And that's why they only had 7.3% havoc rate. It's just not good enough. Like, that's not good enough. That's not even close. That's bad. 12 completions in a row. Come on. Like, you can't let that happen. And it's the thing of how those completions happen too, right? So 10 of those came on those 2 back-to-back scoring drives that they had, right? Well, they had a 90% success rate. So 9 of those 10 were successful plays, right? Like, according to EPA. And the only one that wasn't was they blitzed twice during those 10 dropbacks. Only twice during those 10 dropbacks. One of them, they bought the corner, Leonard Moore on one, and then he got it out quick and threw the ball in the dirt. And it was or threw it right away, and Gray blew it up, right? And that was the only unsuccessful play of the game for them, or of those 2 drives when they were throwing the ball there. When you blitzed in the game, they averaged 4.8 yards per attempt when they blitzed. 8.4 when they did blitz. And I know, whatever. Obviously, you're probably not going to get in the ear of Ash to be like, well, the numbers say this during the thing. But he's got to have a better feel for it. Yes. He's got to know. He has to have that feel, and he totally he was blitzing early in the game, and he backed off of it. And I think the other reason why you needed to blitz too was because 4 wasn't going to get there. 2.34 seconds. That's the average time to throw. That would have been the second fastest time out of any quarterback in Power 4 last year. That is how quick the ball was getting out. So you're not going to get there with 4 unless your guys win clean immediately.
Yes. Yes, agreed.
And that is just, you're never going to have that happen consistently. That is just never going to happen consistently. So you're putting those guys at a disadvantage. And it's, first of all, it's not going to be this way all year. If you look at like Taylor Green and Marcel Reed, for example, they're over 3 seconds average. They're near the bottom of holding on to the ball because they're trying to escape and do other stuff too. But I actually came away from this game thinking about the defensive line. I felt way better about the defensive line after rewatching the game, because it was these guys play pretty good. And I think if they play like a team that, is pretty normal about what they are with their dropbacks, I think they are going to get pressure with 4. Like, Boubacar had the 1 sack on Francis Mauiaga. He only gave up 1 sack the whole entire year. So I mean, you got a sack against that guy, and he won more than that against him.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
they worked Markel Bell. They were killing Markel Bell. Sorry, Mike. What do you got?
No. I just the other thing I wanted to point out with those numbers is I think they're kind of I don't want to say inflated because they were more deflated, but I felt like Miami took the pedal off the gas when they got the lead, and so I think they were very conservative, and I think that helped the defensive numbers because they weren't pressing and pushing like they were, but when they built the lead, they started to get conservative play calling, and so I think that impacted the defensive numbers in a positive way for Notre Dame.
100%.
Go ahead, Greg. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I had a question about, and I wanted to kind of throw this to you guys because I was thinking about this. Jamie mentioned before they were blitzing earlier in the game. So Jamie and I offline were questioning the blitz numbers that PFF had. We're not sure how they tabulate it. Like if Notre Dame sends a linebacker, but they're still sending 4, like how did that count as a blitz or whatever? Notre Dame sent 4 that I charted on, I think it was 7 of the first 13 dropbacks, which is a little over 50%. Way after that, they dropped way back. It was like I had like 3 of 20. I think Jamie had 5. There's a difference between what you call a blitz or whatever. But they dropped way off in their blitz pressures. To me, that's an adjustment that they made. And I'm curious, and I wanted to ask you and Jamie about this, is why do you think they did that? What did they see earlier in the game in your minds that said we need to dial back the blitzes and we're only going to send 4? We're going to do straight rush. We're going to do some stunts. Why do you think they made that move?
I think they felt.
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, I
just think that they felt like they were getting the ball out, and they're like, we're not going to be able to get to them because they're getting the ball out so fast. That would be my guess. But go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I guess that. But I think the one thing about Beck is that it's not just that pressure is a thing on him, but the feeling of pressure.
Yes,
that impacts him, and which is why he threw so bad against the blitz. He doesn't want to get hit. So he's like ball out. And some of those plays are kind of smart plays by him because it's like him getting the ball out and like, hey, I'm waving the white flag here and whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want that guy to wave the white flag and do that. And also, too, I think when you need a play, like there's a play on the second time that they ran that, the pivot route out of the fake mesh to Tony, right? Well, they're running, running man underneath and zone up top, right? With the safeties, and they're rushing 4. But if you're blitzing there and he's thinking about that, maybe that throw is off. Maybe it gets batted down like the one that when they ran that pressure earlier, right? Like with the Dawson knockdown. All of that, I think, like, and where they were on the area of the field is like, if you get a havoc play here, that becomes a long field goal, or or maybe they even have to punt it, right? Like, it wasn't there. I just think he didn't have a good feel for that kind of like when to bring that pressure and all of that. And like you said, I don't think that anyone should just judge based on this game. Like I saw a lot of people were like BVG all over. Like, come on, guys. Like, do you remember BVG? Do you actually remember? Yeah. This isn't that. And obviously, too, the players are too good for them to not play well. Like, even if they play not exactly the kind of style that they should, it's still going to be a top 20 defense, right? But the problem is that they can be a top 5, top 3, whatever defense. And that's what, but you can't do that unless you're making plays and you're able to do that. And before we move on to the next thing, I just want to point out too, Jared Dawson was very, very good in this game.
Yeah, he needs to play more. I thought Rubio and he should play more. I both of those guys, especially because we know Texas A&M is going to try and run the ball. I want to see a lot more Rubio and Dawson in this game. And look, I mean, Uyeyama Onye is like a enigma. I mean, one play he looks like freaking Tarzan, the next he plays like Jane, and it's just you know, you love the Tarzan moments and they need those Tarzan moments because he's one of the few that can make a big difference when he wants to play like Tarzan. But it's the Jane moments that are killing him. And I will say this, I mean, Donnie Heinisch just got pushed around, really did. And we know tough kid, we know he's a fighter, but it's just I think he's a situational player. I don't think he can be a starter, especially when you're going against the offensive line like Miami and the one they're going to face against Texas A&M. Texas A&M's a big offensive line, dude. I mean, there's some big guys in there. And I realize he played fairly well in the Texas A&M game last year, and you're going to need the depth. But I would like to see, where's Mukamat? Where's Sevillano? Can they be something that can help you a little bit as well? So look, I mean, if a guy isn't performing, you got to do something. And so I'm not saying that you set these guys down. You want to give them a shot. You certainly do. And we'll see if they play better. I think that they will, but it was, just kind of hit and miss. And I think Dawson and Rubio played the best out of those two interior players, and they're going to need him next game for sure.
Wait, I just want, because I got some numbers I think that
sure.
I think are important to share. So Dawson, when he was in the game, I mean, obviously he did a good job. He got 3 pressures in the game too, and did a good job in the sub package stuff. So when he was in the game, and he was never paired with Heinisch, so it basically was like him or Heinisch there at nose. And first of all, he owned the matchup with Brockermeyer that whole game. And somebody said that Heinisch, they were asking him to 2-gap. No, they weren't. That's not a thing. They weren't asking him to 2-gap. But 15 runs for 32 yards when Dawson was in the game, 2.1 yards per carry. The longest run they had when he was in the game was 6 yards. 16 times for 89 yards when Heinisch was in the game, so 5.6 per carry. And not every single one of those plays was like, hey, this is a bad rep by Heinisch. But a bunch of them were.
Yeah.
A bunch of them were like, and it just was not good enough. And like, I think too, that's where you have to have a read in the game too. And just say like, I know this guy's a captain, but it's like, well, Dawson is balling. Rubio's playing better. These guys got to play more in that game.
Yes.
And so I have a feeling that like, I mean, the tape is the tape. They're going to go it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dawson and Rubio are starting for this next game because of this game. And Onye
and who they face.
Like, yes. And Onye, like you said, he had 2 plays in the second half were monster plays, right? Where he like blew up the left tackle, got a stop on short yardage on 3rd down. Also caused a hold on another play, big time play. He also had a play early on in the game was 4th and 1. He got absolutely blown off the ball and just destroyed. And it was like just not a good rep. And then even that one play too, where it was like short yardage, where it's either going to be like a long field goal or it's going to be like a more makeable field goal. And he didn't finish. Like he got penetration, but that guy kept going. He could have got in there and pulled that guy back. And that's kind of and it was late in the game. I know he's tired, whatever, but that is the kind of thing that like, if he can put it together, he could be just absolutely dominant, but it's got to be more consistent.
Another thing that I think is a positive that nobody really talked about is Noah Burnett. Tough environment, raining, I thought his kicks were great. I mean, they were right down the middle. It's been a while since I had a guy who could just kick the ball straight down the middle like that. So, people were concerned about whether he would be a good kicker. It's only a small sampling right now, but that gave me, a lot of encouragement in that you're on a very difficult environment, crazy crowd and wet ball, all that type of thing, everything that could possibly go wrong. in that environment. And I thought he did a great job of holding as well. So that's one positive. So Jamie, if you are Marcus Freeman, what do you do this week? What do you say to this team? Who do you go to? And what do you say to your coaches?
I mean, I think you say to the team overall, like, yeah, of course it's disappointing. And you challenge them and you say, like, obviously that's not good enough. But you also have to remind them you lost to a top 10 team on the road by 3 points where you didn't even play very well. And we didn't do a good enough job coaching you guys too. So
That
I think
needs
if
to
you
be said.
yes, and I
That
think
needs to be said.
yeah, and I think if you kind of communicate that to them and let them know, like, hey, like, they've been there before, obviously, that I don't have any issue. They're going to respond. I think they're going to respond, and he's going to push the right buttons, because anytime they've lost like that, that's how they've responded. Like that, they have responded in the right way after those kind of losses. And so I think they'll be fine. And then with the coaching staff, I mean, I'll just say, like, hey, the challenge everything, you are challenging everybody, all of those guys, and say, why this, why that, this is what you do, ask questions, and it's gotta be better. It's gotta be better, because that was like one of the first games. I mean, I'll say they probably they got Al Golden got out coached by Chip Kelly in the national championship game, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
But aside from that, there weren't too many games where Al Golden got out coached, during his time. And I would say, Denbrock certainly didn't have the NIU game was not his finest, but the rest of the way, I thought he did a pretty outstanding job in most games, right?
Yeah.
Probably all of the games. So it's been a while since you've been like humbled, where it's like your coaching staff didn't do a good enough job there. And you got to just challenge them like that. And I think that's why, too, I feel confident that it's going to happen and they're going to come out better. Like you said about Golden, hey, it didn't start out like puppy dogs and ice cream when he first was there. Same thing with Marcus Freeman. When he started as defensive coordinator, that first Florida State game was ugly. Was not a good game. It was like everything. And it was kind of the opposite, where he was probably blitzing too much. Right? Like, so I think it's one of these things where you got to adjust and you got to learn from it. And you got to be humble. You got to be humble about it. And if they treat it in that way, and then you evaluate your players and you say, hey, this guy's earned this amount of time for this game. And if you want that spot back, you better earn it in these next 2 weeks. I think if they do that, they're going to be fine.
I agree with you. I think if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm lighting a fire under the coaching staff, because I don't think that they did a good job in this game. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I go to Chris Ash and I say, we don't play defense like this. We don't call defense like this. This is not how we play. This is how we're going to play moving forward. And I'll give you autonomy to call it the way you want to call it once we're inside the game, but this is what we're going to do, and this is how we play. And I think it's important, Jamie, not just for fixing the season, but I think that's how you want to play if you want to attract top players. You can't tell me that the players that, the guys that are 2027 are sitting around going, man, I really want to play in this defense that Notre Dame played on Sunday. Nobody's going to be
sit back and play zone.
Yeah, nobody's going to be like, hey, I can't wait to sign up for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it has a bigger implication in that regard, that, it's not just and again, it is important. And I think Marcus Freeman knows it's important. They got to learn how to play zone. and they got to learn to be effective in playing zone, especially when you go against some athletic quarterbacks. But that was not Carson Beck. He's not somebody who's going to kill you running the football. So you had the opportunity to do some things. You may not have that in this game against Marcel Reed because, he's obviously a guy who can run the football, and you're going to have to be concerned about that. But there's a lot of things that they need to do, I think, defensively to do this. Offensively, I think it's going to be fine. I think they'll get some things together. I think you'll see a different offense against Texas A&M with a lot more running, and I think that's going to come. I'm very excited about CJ Carr. I know it's just one game, and I don't want to get overly confident about it, but I just like his mentality. He just has the thing mentally that I think makes a great quarterback, and he'll learn, he'll get better, and that type of thing. But just having the right mentality is so much in playing quarterback, and I think it looked like Notre Dame made the right decision by going with him, and so excited about that. I still got problems with the offensive line, but I don't think the problem is Joe Rudolph. I think the problem is I'm just not sure they're athletic enough to play against the very best teams out there. That's later down the road. You're not going to have to worry about that here in the near future. Although, obviously Texas A&M has some players, but I don't think their defense. I watched their defense. I was not overly impressed with their defense.
It's not the same.
It's the first game.
No.
Yeah, it's not even as good as last year's, I don't think. And it's one game, and A&M's going to get better just like Notre Dame's going to get better. So I think we'll see a better version of that defense, but I was not impressed with their defense. But, A&M's offense looked pretty good. Now it was, San Antonio, Texas, so it wasn't like it was a great team that they went against, but they showed that Concepcion, he's going to be a guy to worry about, man. That guy is a good player, and Notre Dame's going to have a challenge with him, and they have other good receivers as well. So I don't think you can sit and just – I think if you play the defense that you played in this game against Texas A&M, I think you're going to lose that game too. I really do. I don't think this guy is a great passer, but I think you need to impact him on what is happening. And so I don't know. Go ahead. Thoughts from you.
I think he is, and I think hopefully for Notre Dame's sake, he leans into trying to prove that he's a passer and not as a runner, because I think he could do a lot more damage as like a scrambler. Yeah.
Yes.
They do have some weapons, like you said, like Concepcion is, he's an electric guy. So is Mario Craver, who they got, is an electric guy. They have speed, right? They have a ton of speed. And they have a good weapons in the backfield too. But I mean, I would even say their line, hyped up, very hyped up going into the season. They got everybody back. They didn't really run the ball that well in week one, which was a lot of people
surprising.
Yeah. Which was,
I was surprised.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a test. I mean, the other thing that I would say to people, this game's at home. There's a big difference in college football between playing on the road in an environment like that than playing at home. Notre Dame is definitely going to get a bump from that, and I think that's going to be pretty helpful.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus, Notre Dame's in a must-win situation, and I think that's going to be helpful because, I mean, Marcus Freeman just says, look, if you guys lose, you've taken your opportunity and made it extremely difficult for us to get into the playoff. You would have made it extremely difficult. So that's got to be a motivating thing too. But hopefully they'll get the things fixed. Mr. Flamong, anything you want to add, my friend?
Yeah, just to add on to the points you guys made, I think Notre Dame has to figure out how they're going to utilize and get the most out of their best players and their star players. I talked a little bit about it on Twitter. You got to get KVA on the field more. He just has to be out there. There's grades and there's assignments and all these other things that we don't know about. He is a playmaker. He is an absolute playmaker. He's got to be out there. You got Bryce Young, 13 pass rush snaps. Yet that can't be it. Like you that cannot be the case. You get Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I understand. I'm looking at the play-by-play and I'm looking at how they tried to get those guys the ball. I understand that part of it, but you have to get the most out of them. They are your best players. Jaden Greathouse, no catches. Two targets or whatever it is. The one target over the middle of the first drive of the second half. He's going to be open on a slant. The ball gets batted down. The thing that it keeps coming back to me when I watch this game is if I didn't know who Notre Dame was, it's like, who are their best players?
You would never say any of the guys who were actually supposed to be the best players.
Yeah. Who are their best players? And I think Notre Dame has to get them. I've talked about it a little bit. Sometimes depth means you play the depth and your best guys aren't out there. Like if you've got stars, you've got to play your stars, and like other guys fit them in somewhere, but you got to get your stars out there.
Wanted to say that, by the way, great catch by Malachi. Hopefully we see a lot more of those. That was a great catch.
Awesome catch.
That makes you very, very confident that he can be a player. Things are going to get better. There's no doubt about it. I'm not concerned. I think Notre Dame will come out and they'll play well against Texas A&M. I'm just more worried about long term. And a guy I saw a guy on there say, well, with O-line, what's your excuse for this being year 3 and they don't have a great O-line? And it's like, well, I think they have a good O-line. Right. Charles Jugasaw isn't out there. Right. And I think he could play left tackle. We've seen him play left tackle. And if he's your left tackle, then
I think he would have played left tackle in this game.
Yeah, I think so too.
It would have 100% moved him if he was available.
And I think they want to play, but this is what it is, right? They want to play Charles at guard because he can be a dominating, absolutely soul-crushing run blocker. And that's why they want to play him there, but they just don't have a lot of options at left tackle right now. And let's be honest, I think that they did it. Sam Pendleton, they recruited as a tackle, didn't turn out to be a tackle. And he's playing center for Tennessee. And Sullivan Absher, they recruited as a tackle, and he didn't turn out to be the guy that they thought that he would be. You had some guys like Elijah Page that you had committed. You let the Monroe Freeland go. These are things that affect when it all comes down to it. And so I think that class, I think Sullivan Absher, don't get me wrong, I think he's a good player, but they recruited those guys to be tackles. And, all 4 of those guys, 3 of them aren't on the team anymore. Freeland never was. But all 4 of those guys are not playing tackle, and those were the guys that you targeted. So that's where you run into it. And I think it was a tough evaluation situation. And then of course with Charles being hurt, it just kind of hurts him. So anything you guys want to add before we shut down the show?
No, I just think that there's a lot of Notre Dame fans that are upset, and I do think that wait till the next game before kind of you hit panic mode. I have a feeling that Notre Dame's going to come out and play really well. And I think that, people should just remember, like, history suggests that they're going to come out and play really well and get it figured out. And that Marcus Freeman is going to, hold those guys accountable, everybody accountable. And I just don't see there's any way where exactly what Greg said about those guys who, the frontline guys that were kind of no-shows, not because of, their fault, but because of what the coaching staff maybe did or didn't do to get them the ball. I think that's, that's something that's going to change. There's no way they're letting that happen in this game.
All right, folks, that's going to be it for the show. Hope you enjoyed that. We will talk to you next week on Power Hour. We'll probably preview the Texas A&M game. There's a lot of recruits coming in for that game. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So be looking for the show. Thanks for listening today. We'll talk to you next week on Power Hour.